What's up everybody, my name is Kalen, I am the Key Keeper. Tonight we are going to be delving into Enneagram science. So if you are familiar with the Enneagram, it is 9 psychological profiles that become the psychodynamic interplay of your most dominant modality and means of expressing yourself. In the Enneagram, there are 9 types: the individualist, the reformer, the let me just start the list properly. So number 1 on the Enneagram is the reformer, the rational, idealistic type, principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and perfectionistic. The number 2 is the helper, the caring, interpersonal type, who is demonstrative, generous, people-pleasing, and possessive. Number 3 on the Enneagram is the achiever. They are success-oriented and pragmatic types, adaptive, excelling, driven, and image-conscious. Number 4s are the individualists, the sensitive, withdrawn type, expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental. Number 5, the investigator, the intense, cerebral type, perceptive, innovative, secretive, and isolated. Number 6 is the loyalist, the committed, security-orientated type, engaging, responsible, anxious, and suspicious. Number 7s are the enthusiasts, the busy, fun-loving type, spontaneous, versatile, distractible, and scattered. Number 8 is the challenger, the powerful, domineering type, self-confident, decisive, willful, and confrontational. And number 9 is the peacemaker, the easygoing, self-effacing type, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, and complacent. So guess which one I am? I am a number 5, the investigator. So the investigator is typed as being intense and cerebral, perceptive, innovative, secretive, and isolated. So I know the Enneagram has wings and like spears. The 5 connects to the 7 through stress, and the number 8 for growth. And there are basically 2 subtypes within the wings. It's the 5-4 and the 5-6. I would be curious to figure out which one of those I am more. I feel I'm more of a 5-4, only because of just my emotionality and individualistic nature, but definitely 5-6 is also in the works. And I can definitely see myself being an enthusiast in a state of stress and a challenger to perpetuate or precipitate my growth. So let's discuss the type 5 in brief. The type 5s are alert, insightful, and curious. They are able to concentrate and focus on developing complex ideas and skills. Independent, innovative, and inventive, they can also become preoccupied with their thoughts and imaginary constructs. They become detached, yet high-strung and intense. They typically have problems with eccentricity, nihilism, and isolation. At their best, they are visionary pioneers, often ahead of their time, and able to see the world in an entirely new way. Their basic fear is being useless, helpless, or incapable. Their basic desire is to be capable and competent. Enneagram 5 with a 4 wing is the Iconoclast. The Enneagram 5 with a 6 wing is the problem solver. The key motivations: want to process knowledge, to understand the environment, to have everything figured out as a way of defending the self from threats from the environment. The meaning of the arrows, in brief: when moving in the direction of disintegration or stress, detached 5s suddenly become hyperactive and scattered at 7. However, when moving in the direction of integration or growth, avaricious detached 5s become more self-confident and decisive, like healthy 8s. Examples: Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, Albert Einstein, Oliver Sacks, John Nash from A Beautiful Mind, Stephen Hawking, Vincent van Gogh, Edvard Munch, Georgia O'Keeffe, Salvador Dali, Alberto Giacometti, Emily Dickinson, Friedrich Nietzsche, Agatha Christie, James Joyce, Jean-Paul Sartre, Susan Sontag, Stephen King, Ursula K. Le Guin, Clive Barker, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Jane Goodall, A.H. Almaas, Eckhart Tolle, Meredith Monk, Glenn Gould, John Cage, Kurt Cobain, David Byrne, Peter Gabriel, Laurie Anderson, Jane Siberry, Trent Reznor, Thom Yorke from Radiohead, Alfred Hitchcock, Marlene Dietrich, Stanley Kubrick, David Cronenberg, Werner Herzog, Tim Burton, David Lynch, David Fincher, Jodie Foster, The Far Side's Gary Larson, Annie Leibovitz, Bobby Fischer, WikiLeaks' Julian Assange, Aaron Swartz, X-Files' Fox Mulder, Dr. Gregory House. That is quite an interesting list of names. I don't know all of them, but I recognize most of those names in some capacity. The type 5 is the investigator because, more than any other type, 5s want to find out why things are the way they are. They want to understand how the world works, whether it is the cosmos, the microscopic world, the animal, vegetable, or mineral kingdoms, or the inner world of their imaginations. They are always searching, asking questions, and delving into things in depth. They do not accept received opinions and doctrines, feeling a strong need to test the truth of most assumptions for themselves. John, a graphic artist, describes this approach to life. Quote, Being a 5 means always needing to learn, to take in information about the world. A day without learning is like a day without sunshine. As a 5, I want to have an understanding of life. I like having a theoretical explanation about why things happen as they do. This understanding makes me feel in charge and in control. I most often learn from a distance, as an observer and not as a participant. Sometimes it seems that understanding life is as good as living it. It is a difficult journey to learn that life must be lived and not just studied. Behind 5's relentless pursuit of knowledge are deep insecurities about their ability to function successfully in the world. 5s feel that they do not have an ability to do things as well as others, but rather than engage directly with activities that might bolster their confidence, 5s take a step back into their minds where they feel more capable. Their belief is that from the safety of their minds, they will eventually figure out how to do things and one day rejoin the world. End quote. 5 spend a lot of time observing and contemplating, listening to the sounds of the wind or of a synthesizer, or taking notes on the activities in an anthill in their backyard. As they immerse themselves in their observations, they begin to internalize their knowledge and gain a feeling of self-confidence. They can then go out and play a piece on the synthesizer or tell people what they know about ants. They may also stumble across exciting new information or make new creative combinations, playing a piece of music based on recordings of wind and water, for example. When they get verification of their observations and hypotheses, or see that others understand their work, it is a confirmation of their competency, and this fulfills their basic desire. To a 5, the quote is, "You know what you are talking about." Knowledge, understanding, and insight are thus highly valued by 5s because their identity is built around having ideas and becoming someone who has something unusual and insightful to say. For this reason, 5s are not interested in exploring what is already familiar and well established. Rather, their attention is drawn to the unusual, the overlooked, the secret, the occult, the bizarre, the fantastic, the unthinkable. Investigating unknown territory, knowing something that others do not know, or creating something that no one has ever experienced allows 5s to have a niche for themselves that no one else occupies. They believe that developing this niche is the best way that they can attain independence and confidence. Thus, for their own security and self-esteem, 5 needs at least one area in which they have a degree of expertise that will allow them to feel capable and connected with the world. 5s think, I am going to find something that I can do really well, and then I will be able to meet the challenges of life, but I can't have other things distracting me or getting in the way. They therefore develop an intense focus on whatever they can master and feel secure about. It may be the world of mathematics, or the world of rock and roll, or classical music, or car mechanics, or horror and science fiction, or a world entirely created in their imagination. Not all 5s are scholars or PhDs, but depending on their intelligence and the resources available to them, they focus intensely on mastering something that has captured their interest. For better or worse, the areas that fives explore do not depend on social validation. Indeed, if others agree with their ideas too readily, fives tend to fear that their ideas might be too conventional. History is full of famous fives who overturned accepted ways of understanding or doing things. Darwin, Einstein, Nietzsche. Many more fives, however, have become lost in these Byzantine complexities of their own thought processes, becoming merely eccentric and socially isolated. The intense focus of fives can thus lead to remarkable discoveries and innovations, but when the personality is more fixated, it can also create self-defeating problems. This is because their focus of attention unwittingly serves to distract them from the most pressing practical problems. Whatever the sources of the anxiety may be, relationships, lack of physical strength, inability to gain employment, and so forth, average fives tend not to deal with these issues. Rather, they find something else to do that will make them feel more competent. The irony is that no matter what degree of mastery they develop in their area of expertise, they cannot solve their more basic insecurities about functioning in the world. For example, as a marine biologist, a five could learn everything there is to know about a type of shellfish, but if her fear is that she is never going to be able to run her own household adequately, she will not have solved her underlying anxiety. Dealing directly with physical matters can feel extremely daunting for fives. Henry is a life scientist working in a major medical research lab. Quote, "Since I was a child, I have shied away from sports and strenuous physical activity whenever possible. I was never able to climb the ropes in gym class, stopped participating in sports as soon as it was feasible, and the smell of a gymnasium still makes me uncomfortable. At the same time, I have always had a very active mental life. I learned to read at the age of 3, and in school I was always one of the smartest kids in academic subjects. Thus," end quote, "thus much of their time gets spent collecting and developing ideas and skills they believe will make them feel more confident and prepared. They want to retain everything that they have learned and carry it around in their heads. The problem is that while they are engrossed in this process, they are not interacting with others or even increasing many other practical and social skills. They devote more and more time to collecting and attending to their collections, less to anything related to their real needs. Thus, the challenge to fives is to understand that they can pursue whatever questions or problems spark their imaginations and maintain relationships, taking proper care of themselves and do all of the things that are the hallmarks of a healthy life. This was quoted from The Wisdom of the Enneagram, pages 208 to 10. So now we are going to listen to Don Riso discussing the type 5. This is a little excerpt that is in the article from the EnneagramInstitute.com, which is their website.
Personality type 5, the thinker, the intense cerebral type. Here's a short profile of some of the important healthy, average, and unhealthy traits of this type. Healthy fives are alert, insightful, and curious about the world around them. They like to ask questions, gather information, and find out how things go together in reality. They have an exceptional ability to concentrate and focus, which can be used in the world of ideas, but also in creative work and in all areas calling for craftsmanship and detail. Healthy fives are independent, innovative, and inventive. Average fives begin to retreat from participation in the world. They can become preoccupied with their thoughts and imaginary constructs, which could either be technical or fanciful. In either case, average fives begin to build worlds in their minds, alternative realities they begin to inhabit. They become detached, yet high-strung and intense. Increasingly secretive and remote, they often lack ordinary interpersonal skills. Low average fives may actually drive people away and minimize their own basic physical and emotional needs so they can focus exclusively on their projects. Unhealthy fives become eccentric and isolated, cutting themselves off from contact with people and getting lost in their own dark and fearful visions of life. They may be extremely cynical and hopeless and retreat into a strange and distorted inner landscape that terrifies them, but from which they cannot escape. However, at their best, very high-functioning fives can be visionary pioneers, able to create something new or see the world in an entirely new way, in profound depth and grand scope, perhaps for the first time in history. You can be fairly sure you're dealing with a five if the person fits many of the characteristics I've just mentioned most of the time, but there are many more informal ways you might also be aware of. Fives are the kind of people who get involved in work or reading or in their own thoughts in such depth that they're frequently late for meetings and phone calls. They forget to eat or to take adequate care of themselves physically. They'll live on soda and candy bars and bathe less often than most. They'll pore over the terminal computer for hours or disappear into the stacks of the local library, only to emerge 5 minutes before closing with an armload of books as they head to the nearest coffee shop to continue reading. Fives can be the most enriching of friends, since they're a treasure trove of information, speculation, opinions, and intensely felt ideas. But they can also be the most impenetrable of presences, a mind bristling with energy and intelligence which signals, "Stay away, leave me alone to follow my investigations wherever they may lead." Fives are the kind of people others usually find strange, quirky, intriguing, intellectual, and detached, but who also seem to have more going on inside than meets the eye. As children, fives felt that they didn't quite fit into their families, and so started looking for something that they could do well enough to feel safe and confident. They're generally quiet children who shy away from playing with others and may have spent long periods on their own, reading, practicing a musical instrument, collecting insects or plants, or playing with board games, computers, or chemistry sets. It's common to find five children who are exceptionally advanced in some abilities while being unwilling to even try other basic activities. They'll tend to have highly developed imaginations, which can be a source of creativity, but also fuel their anxieties about themselves and the world. As adults, fives are truly the most independent and idiosyncratic of the personality types, the ones who could most appropriately be called loners and misfits. But this doesn't mean that fives always want to be alone, or that they can't be excellent company when they're with others. When fives find someone whose intelligence and interests they respect, they are invariably talkative and sociable. It's been my experience that fives love to share their insights and expertise with just about anyone who appreciates what they have to say. Their willingness to share their knowledge changes in the lower levels, however. Some well-known examples of fives are Albert Einstein, Bill Gates, Stephen King, John Lennon, Katie Lang, Lily Tomlin, James Joyce, Isaac Newton, Bobby Fischer, and the character Edward Scissorhands.
That was interesting. So let's continue here. Actually, just to comment on that, like what they said about like getting so absorbed into things that like other things become less relevant. It's like a very out of sight, out of mind type of thing. And also just the idea of like, even like this channel that we have here, it's very five trying to like create this like library, you know, So yeah, it's very interesting. Like, I don't know, like I've always kind of like um identified with many aspects of the Enneagram, because to me it's like so boring to be one thing. So I think I forgot like what my initial type was that I tested for, and um so I tested myself again today, and I tested to be a 5, which, it's very telling of just everything that I learned on Slick Dissident's channel about Hermes. And if you've been watching the videos that I've been posting about him, uh, we discussed, for example, the touchstone and the cell phone and the, like, ugh, this guy is being super annoying. He discussed the cell phone as an altar, as a podium, as a keystone, or touchstone rather, the Altair constellation. Wait. So yeah, it just in terms of like what my process has been, bringing all these threads, all these feeds, all these different rumors and, you know, farmers together. You should really watch his video to understand like what um jargon is going through my mind right now. But I'll try and like insert screenshots of that. Um and yeah, very mercurial, very hermetic, playing both sides. Um and that's why I say like I can see like I've been like a 5-4, but I'm trying to kind of like also integrate some more 5-6, and that's why I could identify with like the loyalist nature in myself, because like, I'm always trying to also figure out like, well, what do I have security in, as much as I can appreciate like fictions and um all sorts of like experiments and designs and all of that. Like, I don't live in Greece, so like it's not a Plato symposium thing for me, and Slick Dissident just has his Enneagram with the characters of the symposium and the tarot cards and the planetary correspondences to be a meta symbol for his channel, for his like it's like a touchstone where he can like see all of his wisdom threading together, and as Kalen, the key keeper, it's very 5 of me to like want to see the key in my name and then give it back to everybody as like keys to figure out themselves, and being very creative with it, because like I said in my last video as well, like I'm just loving that I'm kind of like creating like a fictional world of, fictions and ideas, and like I don't want to be like in the territory of like facts and things that start sounding very dogmatic. I just want to be whimsical and Leo in the ninth house about it, and tell everybody what my experience is so that they can understand why I have certain metaphors to navigate the world or understand a space, or carve out an idea or a script for myself, like whether I'm autistic or not. I like to know how I need to function in a certain world, and I want to be prepped for that. And I'm just like, I'm not ashamed of that. Um, like, I'm just gonna like not do anything that I don't feel like I am equipped to do. Will I try? Yeah, if I can study like what the risks are first. But I'm not saying like I don't like trying new things or anything like that. I'm just saying like I have a very um unconscious risk assessment profiling to my gene key 12 discrimination gate of caution going on as well. Even like when I say like when I speak, I can't even like turn that filter off. So I definitely resonate with like the secretive type stuff. But giving even my name away is like me feeling like, ugh, have exposed myself. But exposing myself in the way that like, how am I a consumer of YouTube? What am I feeding into it? And like everything with like the new ideas, the new technology, the new developments, I'm very much trying to be on the front line of all of that, but I still know there's so much I don't know because I'm the type of person who never really reads a book finished, you know. Like, I'm really bad at finishing books. Like, I just read it and then I will like get as much as I can and then read up online. And like, I would much rather prefer like people read it to me or give me different excerpts at different points and then add commentary or something like that, because like that makes it more personal for me and I can relate to things better when like I can have sentimental Venus in Cancer types of information to attach to it, like taste and smell and just like the type of mood it gave me. That's why I also love art. And so the types of videos that I post in the community for the quote unquote homework slash Netflix and chill slash just go fuck your own mind over, if like, it's not even about like challenging me or me challenging anybody on what they are saying. I'm just trying to like figure out as a reality testing for myself, like, is this library that I walk within myself an adequate measure to navigate the world without the fears and the dissonance and the like, feeling so disconfoculated by all the veneers and the gaslighting and the narcissism and everything that we've been discussing on the channel thus far. Like, I'm just like, I know I have a gift, but where does it serve best? That's what this channel is about. And that's just what we are going to be continue to focus on, like learning to apply the information, because I feel like too many outlets are very keen on disseminating information and selling information, but yeah, I feel like, where's the part where you are the living, breathing example of what you think and believe and are willing to believe about somebody else's reality? Because to me, I don't feel it's necessary to like bring anybody's reality like undone, or you know what I mean. Like, I just like, I need to figure out like, okay, how do I not be a pussy in the world as a scaredy cat when I know other people will just be very much more aggressive and take what they want. And then I have this beautiful poetic notion of like, yeah, like that's a virtue too. Like you go, you're number one type. You go on, Aries. um, but yeah, I guess it's just my Hermes Mercury being very much okay. I can yell the messengers and messages, but like don't kill the messenger, and that's my self-protection with all that I do on this channel, you know, the last couple of videos and me not posting as per my promised schedules really kind of like creamed my corn because I hate making promises and like checking myself mentally for like having failed them, and then you know it's like I never want to be like, oh, I'm so over it that like it doesn't matter because like you made a promise, you know what I mean? um but at the same time, like I'm also not the person who's gonna tell you like hate yourself forever for like doing something a little bit fucked up, even if you have high standards and you just don't give yourself a break. Like I don't like compensate within myself mentally. I feel like I just like physically, like my body just takes the rest that it needs whenever I like pushed myself too much through the mental realms. Um, and yeah, I just like I don't give two shits about being lazy or skipping a bath or something like that. Like when I just really have been so kind of manic for a while, then whenever I come down from that, I always have a little moment of just being very fudged out and just like, you know, it's not like I'm debilitated or whatever, but it's just like, uh, don't ask too much. Like I will just do the bare minimum and like try to like get as much rest as I can because mentally I'm just like I'm not up for anything until that is replenished. And I recognize these moods within myself, so I'm very good at telling people like please leave me alone now. I can't deal, because other times I'm very enthusiastic to deal, especially in stressful situations. I become the enthusiast, you know, I become the jester, I become the quick on your feet thinker, I become the problem solver, that type of thing. But it's very draining to me because just of how much pretending goes into it and how much tiptoeing and suppression and not really telling people like how you really feel or whatever, because you feel like you intellectualize your own anger or your own emotional reaction to a situation as like stirring the pot, or just like it's not healthy or productive, you know, like that's just my type of thing. And then I'll just kind of like have to deal behind the scenes, and I've learned that that's not always the best way to do it, because I would tend to resent people for just being so like over something so quickly in a way that I feel like, damn, you didn't even like think yourself capable of hurting me so deep right there. Um but yeah, they already discussed the mental developments or the healthy versus the unhealthy expressions. So I don't really want to focus too much on that. I'm just gonna like continue reading the article, and then if I have any more thoughts, then I'm going to add that to the end of the reading, because like I just like sometimes I feel I'm so tangential. So the levels of development for the type 5. So what does healthy levels look like? Well, level 1, I don't like this leveling of stuff, but like I feel like I can think it, but like when I read it I feel like it's so typecasty. Level 1, at their best, they become visionaries, broadly comprehending the world while penetrating it profoundly. Open-minded, take things in whole, in their true context, make pioneering discoveries, and find entirely new ways of doing and perceiving things. Level 2. Observe everything with extraordinary perceptiveness and insight. Most mentally alert, curious, searching intelligence. Nothing escapes their notice. Foresight and prediction. Able to concentrate, become engrossed in what has caught their attention. And level 3. Attain skillful mastery of whatever interests them. Excited by knowledge, often become an expert in some field. Innovative and inventive, producing extremely valuable original works. Highly independent, idiosyncratic, and whimsical. The average, level 5. Well, this is level 4 now. So they begin conceptualizing and fine-tuning everything before acting, working things out in their mind, model building, preparing, practicing, and gathering more resources. Studious, acquiring technique, becoming specialized, and often intellectual, often challenging accepted ways of doing things. Level 5 5s, increasingly detached as they become involved with complicated ideas or imaginary worlds. They become preoccupied with their visions and interpretations rather than reality. They are fascinated by offbeat, esoteric subjects, even those involving dark and disturbing elements. They are detached from the practical world, a disembodied mind, although high-strung and intense. And level 6 begin to take an antagonistic stance towards anything which would interfere with their inner world and personal vision, become provocative and abrasive, with intentionally extreme and radical views, cynical and argumentative. Unhealthy levels. Level 7, become reclusive and isolated from reality, eccentric and nihilistic, highly unstable and fearful of aggressions. They reject and repulse others in all social attachments. Level 8, get obsessed yet frightened by their threatening ideas, becoming horrified, delirious, and prey to gross distortions and phobias. And level 9, seeking oblivion, they may commit suicide or have a psychotic break with reality. Deranged, self-destructive, with schizophrenic overtones. Generally corresponds to the schizoid avoided or schizoid typal personality disorders. Addictions. Poor eating and sleeping habits due to minimizing their own needs, neglecting hygiene and nutrition, lack of physical activity, psychotropic drugs for mental stimulation and escapes, narcotics for anxiety. Personal growth recommendations for Enneagram Type 5s. Learn to notice when your thinking and speculating takes you out of the immediacy of your experience. Your mental capacities can be an extraordinary gift, but also be a trap when you use them to retreat from contact with yourself and others. Stay connected with your physicality. You tend to be extremely intense and so high-strung that you find it difficult to relax and unwind. Make an effort to learn to calm down in a healthy way without drugs or alcohol. Exercising or using biofeedback techniques will help channel some of your tremendous nervous energy. Meditation, jogging, yoga, and dancing are especially helpful for type 5s. You see many possibilities, but often do not know how to choose among them or judge which is more or less important. When you are caught in your fixation, a sense of perspective can be missing, and with it, the ability to make accurate assessments. At such time, it can be helpful to get the advice of someone whose judgment you trust while you are gaining perspective on your situation. Doing this can also help you trust someone else, a difficulty for your type. Notice when you are getting intensely involved in projects that do not necessarily support your self-esteem, confidence, or life situation. It is possible to follow many different fascinating subjects, games, and pastimes, but they become a huge distraction from what you know you really need to do. Decisive action will bring more confidence than learning more facts and acquiring more unrelated skills. Oi. Oi. Fives tend to find it difficult to trust people, to open up to them emotionally, or to make themselves accessible in various ways. Their awareness of potential problems in relationships may tend to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is important to remember that having conflicts with others is not unusual, and that the healthy thing is to work them out rather than reject attachments with people by withdrawing into isolation. Having one or two intimate friends whom you trust enough to have conflicts with will enrich your life greatly. To learn more, the Riso Hudson books offer the most complete types description available anywhere. Personality type is the most complete, in-depth, systematic treatment of the 9 types and the Enneagram system as a whole, and the wisdom of the Enneagram provides the comprehensive guide to psychological and spiritual growth for the 9 personality types. So that was really interesting. There was like basically nothing I didn't agree with. You know, all of those negative aspects to less or more degrees, I have manifested them in my life. And as it relates to the positive aspects, I am definitely also recognizing more securely that the type 5 describes a nature within me that is always investigating, you know, and it comes with certain gifts, it comes with certain abilities, but it also comes with a certain territory or a certain you know, like once you create a niche, you are the one developing it, and once you create a collection or some sort of edifice of knowledge, you are the person who has to fortify and enrich it, you know. And because I was doing the kind of more negative levels, unhealthy levels for a while, just taking in a lot of information, not feeling good enough about what I have to say or what I already know, and not having like some proper reality testing measure for myself, because you know there's all these fantasies and whimsies and conspiracies and um like being seduced by other people's words or their model of reality or whatever it was that as a 5 made me feel somehow inadequate to just show up to the world as my full self and be like, this is me, and take it or leave it. And like, if there needs to be an exchange, there can be an exchange. If there needs to be a fight, there can be a fight. But I'm still gonna like protect me, and I'm still gonna do what's best for me. As helpful as I want to be to everybody else, I've just through my life learned in every measure that my life has been able to teach me this, that there's no such thing as a solution just for you in any situation. And part of Pure Key's Lake is about not being absolutist. It's about not being dogmatic. It's about bringing a whole different, the Pluto in Sagittarius is like learning to have a strength for what your unconscious might be flooded for, because you have such a strong archetypal resonance frequency to decode new information according to old patterns that maybe I need to have Pluto in Sagittarius to not always look for how things have a symmetry or something, but actually like exist more mutable fire in that sense. Colors of the rainbow are different colors in a bandwidth or a frequency, but the differences coming together is what creates the most beautiful aspect thereof, in terms of like the gradations and the blending and all of that. So yeah, so to me, I've just like all of these things we've been talking about rainbows and butterflies and all these fantastical symbols being so highly esoteric that you can never really profane it by like, like when your child is watching The Little Mermaid, like you're not going to be telling them like it could be some sort of like queer coding trance metaphor, part of that world to be something, that you aspire to, but there's, something that you have to change. That can be taken to various different contexts, even if I can find a reference on YouTube or somewhere else that it has been decoded as such. Me saying that in a context that has no polyfiller makes it somehow exposed to be this, you took a shot at something and now like watch it like shoot back. And I'm always just like so afraid of like saying something in a cutout way that like offends somebody for the fullness of what their light could comprehend, even if one aspect applies to something that the I am can be like, that's me. Like sometimes I have to listen to like Slick Dissident where I almost feel like I'm being read literally, and I respond to the emotional energy within me when I make my videos, even though I don't take it personal. I don't say it's his fault or he said anything to like mess with my mind. Like, no, it's about like me expressing to you guys like what in real time are like my biases and you know, the defense mechanisms, or like things that doesn't make me feel like I can sit in the fullness of a certain revelation, because some sort of stereotype is trying to carve itself into being like a discrimination, where it says, you know, like how I can watch a video of him, for example, where he spoke about Era and the Altair and stuff, and then I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. And then like he spoke about the Hornavian groups and like who are the most aggressive and stuff, and I was like, shit, that's me too. And then he spoke about like some blood-ridden Pornhub lead gold metaphor, and I was just like, oh my god, that is me too. So, you know, like just seeing how the Enneagram moves and how a certain vacuum creates a certain altar to appear and take the stand, take the podium. When he got to a video where he was talking about the observers and you know, the artists and people who all kind of like hunched over looking for gems. Like I'm always thinking about like my posture. Like because I sit like so like I have like cell phone back at this point. Like oh, every time I like get up and like stretch myself, I just feel so like oh, you're gonna look like a question mark. Because you're always like this asking seven Socrates, you know, and like mentally I'm like asking Socrates in the notion of sleek dissident, because he's asking the types of questions that open my you know, floodgates of unconscious needs. So yeah, even when he had like this poem on like shadow boxes and stuff like that, it was literally like just after like I watched the Angelarium video, and I just like had a complete like meltdown, because I was like, I am not the one to be like Atreides or something like that, because like no, I'm not gonna like be making everything in creation unsatisfied with their name, because I'm like exposing stuff or whatever, like, you know, like just the way that like video at that point, you know, me being very kind of like manic, being very dealing with death in the family, a lot of emotional distress, whatever. At the time, I was just like, you know, I was gonna like not allow that to be something that takes away from the integrity of the channel that I need to honor. Um, because that was my real experience, you know. I can't like fake it and be like, this was my emotional, subjective, hearing somebody speak to me out of a I need to hear it type of thing. I can't like go back to that and be all objective about it, like, oh, and then I had this like vision and I had this revelation and I had this and that happen and this and that. Like, no, I can't. Like, I'm just like, I'm not that type of person who can like find any purpose in like making an oral out of like my emotions. What I can do is um I can use that emotions, with its fear, with its confusion, with its just feeling very inundated with like a subconscious, unconscious opening up of myself um you know, when you are doing like alchemy and doing things alone, like fasting and you know, like semen retention and like having a channel and doing all these things, like it gets very raw, and and I just needed to be transparent about it, you know. um Even if I did feel like um there was a very peculiar, just psychotronic trolling situation that made me feel very um like it brought some sort of primal hypervigilance or some sort of like omniscience or something like, oh, I don't even want to like describe it, but like yeah, let's just say that like um like I could see the shadow workers. I could see the it's like I saw everybody's shadow as something that literally like moves with um geometries and spellings of arcs, and it's like the people's bodies were making shapes and stuff, and like the shadows were like these serpents trying to like um encapsulate like this glowing visible, it was like everybody was like light and water, and the shadow was like some sort of like moving mirror of black heaviness, or yeah, I don't know, it's like everybody had like a shadow of like black goo, but it like moved like it moved in according to like the auric spelling of intent to kind of like shape and constrict a light around them, so that the light and the way that they are bending and um moving in reality, like it's like everything became like, I don't know, it's like there was just like one path and like one song, and everybody was speaking at once, and my thoughts and everything, um and it's just like water, and I felt like I was like burning in water, and I could see like ahead of me just like blurry radiation of like, yeah, like I don't really know how to describe it. Like I've never really experienced anything like that before. Um, so I guess I was just like very heightened, sensorially and archetypally. I think like my cipher was literally like doing like this like um safe lock on all the incoming information, just like it was like it was scrying it and opening up the words into like meanings of like, it was like it was supposed to be directly heard by me,